Okay, so we are going to hit on why people quit, why people go to another company, or why people decide they just don't want to do something anymore in your business, or they quit your company, they jump to a competitor company, or they decide that it just isn't for them and they stop ordering product, or they decide to stop promoting, or any of that stuff. And I know it's a pretty big deal. I've talked to a few different people uh, that that are pretty high up in companies, and it's something that just kind of goes along with the territory. And so I decided I wanted to make this training for people because for two different reasons. One, because if your organization is big enough, you're probably dealing with this to a certain degree, if not a large degree, and it can be it can be crushing, soul crushing, especially when you think you have somebody and they're growing and they're doing really good, and all of a sudden they just disappear or they quit or something like that. Or and the second reason why I wanted to do this one was for the people who are maybe brand new or maybe have smaller organizations who might not be dealing with this too much. It's good to get ahead of this, and it's good to know, okay, what can I start doing now to prevent something like this in the future? So um, I titled this one "No Quitters Allowed." So these are the three things that cause people to quit, and then how to stop it. Obviously, we want to give you guys the tools to how to prevent people from quitting your organization, quitting your team, moving to a different company, walking away altogether. So I did quite a bit of research on this, and I kind of broke it down into some three basic things that I really want to hit on with you guys. So we'll get to these right now. So what you'll be learning in this training is, ooh, you like that? You like that visual there? I'm not going to do that the whole time. I just thought that was cool with the parchment paper type thing. So we're going to go over the three reasons why people quit your company. The second one is how to stop it, how to stop them from leaving you, or at least slow it down considerably. The next one is, what does all in mean for your business? Now, don't get freaked out. All in, we're going to go into that. Don't get freaked out or anything. The next thing is why all in is essential for your team's growth. The next one is how to attract more builders to your team. So this is an indirect result from what you're going to be learning in this training. The next one is the real reason why network marketing has a high attrition rate. So I don't know if you see any of the statistics that are out there as far as why what network marketing has an incredibly high attrition rate. The number of people who jump in and quit, jump in and leave. So network marketing is very notorious for that. And we're going to jump into the real reason why that is. Some people think it's intrinsically the way network marketing is set up. That, I believe, is not true. I am going to break that down, and what I believe is going to help you out preventing that moving forward is figuring out the real reason why. Because I think so many people just believe that it's part of the way things go, why things are the way they are. It's just kind of the way network marketing is. I've interviewed a lot of leaders in the industry that have kind of said the same thing. I just, you know how people are, they just quit, right? And I don't like those types of answers. I don't like those responses, because I feel like, well, there's a reason for everything. And I think you just chalk it up to, well, people are just quitters, or people are lazy, or people whatever. I don't feel like that's ultimately what the real reason is. I think there are underlying reasons, and that's what I figured out when I went back, looked at our organization, and started digging deeper into the other people that I've talked to about this as well, along with a lot of the trainings that I studied that dive deep into this particular topic. So first off, I want to let everybody know, we have been there banging our head against the walls, wondering, why did they quit? What was wrong? They were doing so great. It was upsetting. I know that if you've been in network marketing for any amount of time, or if you're an entrepreneur, or even just own your own business, why do people just get up and leave? Why do people quit? Why do people just walk out? And you're banging your head against the wall trying to figure it out. Trying to read motivational things, and how do I motivate people? How do I be a better leader? Different things like that. Well, those are all great, but I think when we get to the core of it here in a little bit, you're going to have a better understanding of it. So as I was saying, we've been there before. We had dozens of happy people working underneath us, and we thought, man, we've made it. I remember when we first got going, I thought, everybody is going to be a successful top leader in our company that we're bringing in, even the people that didn't want to do the business, right? I just had that mentality. And we had people who jumped in for a week and then they were gone. We had people who jumped in for months and then were gone. We've had people who jumped in for a long time and then they just up and leave. And so we've been there, and we've had all those happy people and then just end up frustrated and figuring out why we screwed up. And so when we hit on these, I just want you to know we have made all the mistakes we're going to talk about. And that's why we know. And that's one of the big reasons why we know. One of the biggest drawing points that I pull from this information is us, because when we first got into network marketing, obviously our very first company, when we were young, we were immature, we didn't know what we were doing. We just, threw everything at the wall and seen what sticks. And so we've made the mistakes. And what I love about this is if you're brand new and you don't have a team yet, maybe you're just getting started, this is absolutely perfect for you, because a lot of Ashley and I's trainings, what we really try to hit on is starting to become intentional with your actions, more conscious of your actions instead of passively reacting. We think that's probably a crux of a lot of problems that people have. Now, jumping into each and every individual one of those, that's why we have the inner circle. That's why we like putting out these trainings, is to help people become more conscious and more intentional with the actions that they're making instead of passively just doing what they can, or it's a lot of things happen subconsciously. We bring those into the forefront. It can become incredibly helpful. So if you're brand new, prevention is the best medicine. Take this moving forward into, a lot of the stuff we're training here, teaching on in this, you can translate into your personal life. If you're working a job still, take it into your job world, and you're going to see dramatic changes in the people around you, the way people view you, the way people see you, and the results that you get out of everything in your personal relationships, everything like this. So that's why I love the way Ashley and I are approaching these trainings, is that we are wanting to give people life advice and life trainings that go into and permeate into every part of their life, but we talk about it in the ways of their business. So what's beautiful about this is you can take this into every part of your life, and it's helpful. So why people quit? Number one, the first reason, here's a little bit of a clue. If you really look at that picture there, maybe pause it and look at that. What's going on there? That's a little weird. What's going on there? You have a hammer hitting a screw, and you have a monkey wrench hitting or trying to screw in a nail. It doesn't really work that way. So the number one, starting off with why people quit, is confusion. People just get confused. And what happens when we're confused, if you've gone through our big training, the 3 secrets of network marketing, when people get confused, they do not take action. I know that this is a big one for me. When I get overwhelmed or when I get confused, I tend not to take action. There are several things in our life, especially when it comes to raising our children, that when we get confused, sometimes we're like, I don't know what to do. So we tend not to do things. And so confusion can be an absolute momentum killer for the people you bring into your business, which can be a momentum killer for your business in general. So we want to try to prevent that. So when people don't take action, what happens to your business and theirs when they don't take action? If people just sitting around talking about their dreams and goals, what tends to happen to the business? Absolutely nothing. People tend to just quit, which is what we're talking about. So people will search for answers is typically what ends up happening. If they're committed, and they don't take action, and they're confused, and they're going to start looking for answers. It's the natural reaction of things. When you don't know, you start to ask yourself questions, and you start to search for answers. The problem with that philosophy in network marketing is you might not like the answers that they're looking for, that they actually end up finding, because the problem is somebody might have this brand new idea. And let me know if you've ever experienced this before, because I know we experienced this a lot. We became moderately successful several years ago in our company, and we got successful doing things a certain way, teaching things a certain way. And what ended up happening was we had people who were brand new, came in and thought, man, let's reinvent it. I'm going to do it this way. I'm going to hand out flyers. I'm going to go knocking door to door, all that stuff. And it ended up being a bad thing, to the degree that they brought these new ideas into our existing team, and the grass is always greener on the other side syndrome kicked in for everybody. And they were like, I'm going to try that. Or they think, I might give that a shot. And what makes it really bad is when there's a small amount of success from somebody who decides to do something different, that is not a long-term solution to getting to their dreams, and it ends up causing some issues. So We want to try to prevent that confusion as much as possible. So we're going to get into that a little bit more later. This is a beautiful quote I love here. You can't follow your heart when it's more confused than your head. I don't know who that is. It's unknown. That's why I said that. So why people quit, number 2. There's a little bit of a clue there. You guys know what that one would mean. Negativity. Look at that. That was kind of a stretch with that picture. So getting negativity into your organization. So what does that mean? So that means gossip, even if it's true. I hate that excuse. Well, it's true. I said it because it's true. That is no excuse for people. Some people saying some of the things that they've said. Bad mouthing, jealousy, rumors, complaining, etc. You get the idea. Anytime something's said about somebody else that's not in a positive light, even if it's true, even if it's positive, but they twist it as a negative. For example, we've had people who were immensely successful in our organization that you get them around and you get in a big group and they tell their story and to help other people and some trainings. And then all of a sudden you hear from somebody else, well, they did that because they have this, they have X, Y, and Z, and I don't have that. How many times have you heard that? And I hate that because they don't know that person's story. And for me, that's just giving that, they're preemptively giving themselves a cop-out later when they're not successful. That way they can point at somebody else and go, well, I didn't have what X, Y, and Z has, and blah, 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 and that's why I wasn't successful. So the problem with that is you hear stuff like that, and it can start to infect other people. People start to think, hey, they're right. I'm not like X, Y, and Z person. I don't have that. So yeah, maybe they're right. And they start spreading excuses, is a term I like to use. Don't let people spread excuses in your organization. So this can be cross-line, down-line, up-line. When people start coming to you and they're complaining to you, you kind of want a little bit of that because you want, and I'll get into this a little bit later, when people are frustrated with another person or there's a negativity in the organization, you want people to be able to come to you, but you want it to come to you and stop. And you want to be able to help them just kind of get that all out. And in some other deeper trainings that we have, we kind of go into ways to deal with people like that. But for right now, we're wanting to just kind of get you guys a little bit more self-aware right now. So the main reason why people join network marketing is they're here to help build people in their passions. Allowing negativity is the complete opposite of that. We're not building people up anymore. We are trying to tear them down so we feel better. And I know that sounds like something you would hear at like a 6th grade anti-bullying rally, but it's true because it plays itself out in today's, when you're an adult. So here's another good quote. You can't litter negativity everywhere, then wonder why you have a trashy life. Another unknown quote. Eventually, there's going to be enough of these unknowns that I put out here that I might just start throwing my name down there and seeing if people believe it. So third reason why people quit. This one's kind of a no-brainer. There's another clue. What's going on with that guy there in the bleachers? They're left alone. It's so funny to me to see these people work so hard to bring people into their company and then they just leave them alone, or they expect a training program to train them everything, or they drop them into a Facebook group and they're like, oh, that'll take care of them. They'll be taken care of in that Facebook group where they can get all their answers, their questions answered, and I don't have to do anything because the Facebook group will take care of that. This has become a heavy problem more recently in the industry because people tend to think that outside resources like Facebook groups or weekly trainings from higher up leaders in their company are going to be what trains their people. That's just absolutely it's not the way it is. You can't just let them try it out on their own. You can't just, all right, get in there and figure it out. Now, that's not to say don't let people bring their own personal twist to the way things are done, but you don't want somebody coming in trying to reinvent the wheel, which is such a big thing. We've done this long enough to where it's without fail. When we have big meetings, we have people come up to me and they're like, okay, I got this brand new idea. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go do this and I'm going to go do that. And they think they have these new ideas that nobody's ever tried before, when I love it because they're excited, right? But what's funny is we throw these events and we have these speakers that are successful in multiple different ways of doing the business with their own personal twist. They go up there and they they tell people how the best way to do it that's unified within the team. And without fail, people come up to me afterwards and like, hey, great event, man. That was such a good event. I'm so inspired. Hey, I got this new thing that I'm going to think about trying. I'm like, wait a minute, you just heard a dozen people talk about X, Y, and Z way that they've done it. And you think that you can come in here and do something radically different that, I mean, some of it's good. I think there's good in a little bit of all of it, but I think more often than not, people have these wacky out there ideas of how they think they're going to be successful in this by being different than absolutely everybody else. And that's typically not the way things are done for people to get successful. The most successful people, at least in my organizations and other organizations that I've seen, are the people that plug into a way of doing things, bring their own personal pizzazz to it, and then they figure out the success moving forward with that. So if you are this type of person that just plops people into group, you might as well buy them some flowers in a casket, because when they join your business, they're dead right there. They're done. It's a foregone conclusion. Very rarely is somebody that's just left alone, left to their own devices in their own and like just the weekly webinars or training programs. They're just plugged into that stuff and said, all right, you're done. It doesn't tend to end very well. I don't think I've ever heard somebody just come out of nowhere and be like, no one helped me. I didn't do it. They didn't give me any advice. And they gave me this online training program and I figured it out. I rarely have heard people have long-term success with that type of philosophy. A case in point on that is I created an online training program for our company, and I put it out there for our team first and foremost, and I let them try it. Now, and I told them, now look, this is like support. This isn't meant to be the crutch that you hold up your whole business on. Don't just send them to this training website and then expect everything to be taken care of for them. It doesn't work that way. Well, lo and behold, people decided to try that out anyways. And I had to end up doing a whole nother training, reiterating the point that you send them there, schedule the follow-up by going over the training program, and that way they feel like somebody's helping them, guide them through the process, and you have a better understanding of the people you're bringing in. You understand their dreams, their goals, and you can also start to see their list, get into their network. But people they just treated it like it's like a babysitter, and it doesn't really work out that way. Okay, another good quote here. No man is an island. Who's heard this one before? No man stands alone. John Donne. So great. These are wonderful. Now what? What do I do? What am I supposed to do with these? So we're going to go through and we are going to break down all three of these and how you can prevent them. So the first one's first with confusion. What causes confusion in your team? What can bring confusion into your organization? I've already gone over a few of those, but a good one for you. Everybody's organization is different, and maybe thinking back, if you've been in a while, what have you seen has confused people? So for me, out of town speakers come in that have no idea about how we do things, and they tell people to do something different. And all of a sudden, you have people who are doing something one way, and they get shiny object syndrome, grass is greener on the other side syndrome, and they decide to drop everything that they've been doing and try this brand new thing. That can cause a lot of confusion, because more often than not, especially in the online world, people think that, oh, it's going to be easy, you just set it and forget it type thing, and then take care of it. Things are a lot more complex than they first imagined, and then they get frustrated, and that can also lead to negativity and can just completely cripple an organization. So think of maybe a few of the ways that confusion what's caused confusion in your team, your organization specifically, because maybe looking back at that and being like, oh, okay, I never thought of it, but that brought a lot of confusion into my organization. And there was a lot of breaking down after that. I know for us, we had one very recently where outside speaker came in and completely just gave this training that was contrary to everything we've been doing. And there was so much confusion. We had this massive drop off in things. And so it was this correlation is just so vivid in my brain right now. So a ship with no captain remains lost. So remember that. That comes back to you being the benchmark for the way things are done, being the example, which we'll get into here in a second. Having a unified philosophy for your team. This one may sound cheesy. You don't have to share this with people, but writing down what's your motto, what's your team mantra or manifesto or whatever you want to write down, something like a philosophy that unifies your team. So for you, what is the philosophy that you want your team to stand for? Do you want it to be like, for ours, it's for our inner circle, it's heart fueled hustlers. We want people to have to be out there hustling, but be so heart filled that they're just fueled to the max with the excitement of what's going on inside them. So that's kind of our mantra. I'm a heart fueled hustler. Having something like that for your team to help them get behind you with stuff like that can be immensely helpful. Like I said, you don't have to share this. You don't have to be like, all right, everybody, the beginning of every meeting, let's read our mantra or read it all out loud as a group and things like that. If you want to, and that's what you want to do in your organization, great, but don't feel like that's what you have to do. Having something written down that hits you in your chest, that makes you feel like, yes, this is the philosophy of the team that I want to create. That subconsciously can leak its way into everything that you do, and then people start to do in your organization. So writing something down like that, or at least having it in your mind, can be something incredibly powerful. Another confusion, getting around your team as many ways as possible. So once again, I said at the beginning of this, don't get stressed out. I'm not trying to, the beautiful thing about the trainings that we're trying to do is they can be perceived very easily as, man, they're trying to create a lot more work for me. And that's not the case. With this training entirely, if you take it all to heart, you can actually work a lot less, but be more intentional and conscious of what you're doing, and you're going to get 10 times the results. And that's what we're ultimately wanted to do for you guys. So when I say get around your team in as many ways as possible, weekly webinars or conference calls that you put on can be great. Now, if you're not up for those types of things, that's fine. One way I always like to hit it with those is get-togethers. You can do it virtually, you can do it in person, but fun get-togethers, or a great idea that I wish more people would do, are call parties, where you get together at somebody's house maybe once a week, and you just call people on your list together. Hey, I got so-and-so, they're this type of person. How do you think I should talk to them? What do you think I should do? And you kind of bounce some fun ideas off each other, but you make it fun. And then somebody makes a phone call. If they don't feel comfortable enough, they can go in another room, or they want to make a phone call in front of everybody, they can do that. But it's the main point of it is to have fun and get together. I'll tell you, when our team was growing the absolute fastest is when we were having the most fun get-togethers, weekly fun get-togethers, where people just got together and we just hung out, whether it was after weekly presentations, after trainings, whatever. People were almost more excited to get together and hang out, which the fun part about that is those fun get-togethers are when the most learning can take place, especially if you have a good unified team, getting rid of all that confusion, getting in front of your people in a fun setting. You're naturally going to talk about your organization, or your team, or the business, or the products, or whatever. But it's more of a relaxed environment, and people are going to have, you're going to drop little golden nuggets, whether you know it or not. People are going to learn a lot from you. They're going to have a lot more fun. Or if you can do something like this with your sponsor, your line of sponsorship, you get something to organize something where where you guys all get together, and it can be a blast, and you're going to learn some things, they're going to learn some things, but it's in a fun environment, which makes people want to keep coming back. And it gets a unified mindset up and down in the organization for people doing things together. Virtually is great. Getting people on conference calls are good, and talking about them, but getting in person and hanging out is even better. One-on-ones where you get together, see how people are doing, whatever. But the main point with all of this is to remove confusion by getting around your people, because you want to have people see what type of person you are. Living out that philosophy, of that mantra that you wrote out, is a big way for people to have a unified front of the way things are done. Branding their loyalty to you and the way you do things, the system, so to speak, of the way you're doing things, is a huge way to remove confusion. Show them what you stand for and believe in. That's kind of the point that I was trying to get there just now. So next thing on confusion, some plan of action moving forward, just some real 30,000 foot view down plans of action moving forward. Give them action examples for their first 30 days, absolute minimum their first 30 days. So what are action examples? So showing them the way the business should be done just through action. So you can't just make a list and just look at it and hope people magically call you up and decide, hey, I just had this feeling you were thinking about me and you were wanting me to join a business and I was thinking I should. Doesn't work that way. People don't tend to do that. So showing them, hey, I'm calling people. I am doing some follow-up. I am getting out and about. I'm doing some social events. I'm doing the demos. I'm doing the product demonstrations. I'm getting on the conference calls. If we want to get together on Saturday morning when the conference calls are and hang out and have mimosas or whatever and listen to the conference call and have some fun talking about it, do stuff like that. Show them action examples for their first 30 days. Now, what's great about that is once you've done that for everybody, I mean, what's great is you don't have to do this stuff one-on-one. I think a lot of people feel when they get in like, man, this is so hard because I'm having to do this with all these new people. But what's great is when you bring on, let's say you bring on somebody and then a week later you bring on another person. So you bring them together on these things by showing them action examples for the first 30 days. And they'll see each other. Oh, this person was so-and-so. They just came in a week ago. This is their second time. And all of a sudden, these people can start exchanging ideas. They can grow friendships. And what's really great is fun competitiveness. So somebody who came in and they've been in for 3 weeks and you're brand new. You've only been a week, but you've already, are hitting those rank goals or whatever that this brand new person hasn't hit yet. That inspires other people and they can bounce ideas off of each other. And what's great is it's all in the confines of what you are doing, unified behind you. And so what's really beautiful about this is once you've identified people who are leaders, so to speak, and we'll get into a little bit more of what that means to be a leader or more willing to be all in, you start to give them mindset examples. So mindset examples would be showing them, hey, I'm going to listen to this audio. I'm going to go listen to Tony Robbins. I got this really great video on YouTube. It's an hour long on how to be an XYZ or how to achieve X, Y, and Z. We should get together and listen to it. And they show up and all of a sudden they're showing them mindset examples. You don't just have to go out and work your butt off in this business nonstop every day, all out massive action for 50 years. And then you get those residuals, right? It's not about that. You're wanting to also grow their mind, grow them as a person. So showing them mindset examples with once you've identified a leader, it's important. So one key point I want to hit on with all of this is I have you showing mindset examples after you've identified them as a leader. That doesn't mean after the 30 days, but once you've identified somebody who's hungry, they're just hangry and they're ready to go and they're ready to grow and learn, showing them some of those mindset examples are absolutely pivotal because people who are hungry and they see you and you're achieving and you're succeeding, they're going to want to know more about what you're doing, not just action step things, but mindset things and how you're growing them. So getting them involved in something like the inner circle would be absolutely massive if you think that they're there for that. But getting them plugged into some things that are really going to help them, good books, good audios, good trainings, good things like that, that's where it really pays off because they're going to duplicate those things down. And then before you know it, you have a unified front, 50 people down from you that are all following that same example of things. So next one, negativity. So how are we going to get rid of negativity in the group? So here's what's funny about this one is it's simultaneously the easiest and the hardest one to deal with on your team. So what do I mean by that? So it starts with you. You can't be gossiping. You can't be spreading rumors. It starts with you. And I know some people, they've been in it for a while. Maybe be honest with yourself, look back and go, have I perpetuated a rumor or have I perpetuated any gossip? Even if it was true, even if it was, they were really successful and they did this thing, but, and you try to sugarcoat it before you almost give somebody pause. Oh, they're a really great person. They're so great. And this is so many wonderful things about, by the way, have you heard that? And somehow people feel like because I preface the negativity with something positive about them, that it magically makes it better when it does not. So this is why it's the easiest thing in the world in your organization, because you It starts with you. If you start cutting off the gossip, if you start cutting off the rumors, and they start seeing you as a person that doesn't sit down and, hey, by the way, have you heard so-and-so? Have you heard what happened with the company? Have you heard this? Have you heard the rumors of this? Have you heard this? Anything that can be construed as negative, you got to cut that off, because it's one thing I've learned in this industry quicker than anything is rumors spread fast, super fast. And it's like a game of telephone. You can say something to somebody, and if it is even slightly construed as negative, then when they tell the next person, it's going to be a little bit worse, because the story needs to be better. I need to have a good story to tell some, so that they'll embellish a little bit, whether they consciously do it or don't. And all of a sudden, 10 people away, the company's going under and the owner is in a satanic cult. So you know what I mean? Like, crazy things happen and they get out of hand very, very fast. So it starts with you, but it's also simultaneously the hardest thing, because sometimes people come in, you get brand new people that come in and they feel like they want to start that negativity and that gossip. And it's so easy to fall for it. So here's some ways to help prevent that. So if you're down, go up. If you're up, go down. So what does that mean? So if you're feeling down, you're feeling negative, you're feeling like you want to just scream at that new person that's not listening to you, and you just, oh man, they're dragging you down and you're frustrated with them, right? Don't go down and try to, oh man, oh yeah, what's their name is just really, Stacy lately, she's so great, but she's working so hard, but man, she just doesn't listen to me and she just pisses me off, right? Whoa. You're telling that to anybody in your organization. That's not good, because all of a sudden, Stacy's an XYZ, insert, 4-letter word there. So if you're down, go up. So bring that negative. If you feel like you have to, go to the person above you, somebody in your line of sponsorship, your fastest growing sponsor, and vent to them. Let them know what's going on. Let them know that this is frustrating you. And you know what? They're going to give you advice on how to deal with it. How amazing, instead of just venting. How great is it to be given solutions to things versus just being able to vent? I mean, you're getting both when you go upline, but when you go down with it, you're just spreading that negativity, and you wonder why your organization can turn to trash, as the quote above said. So if you're up, go down. So if you're feeling inspired, something really great's going on with Stacy. Stacy, she's learned, she's plugged in, she's coachable, she's excited. Then talk about how great Stacy is. So this is a great way to, one, remove that confusion, and two, prevent that negativity. When you see somebody doing the right things, no matter how big or how small they might be, highlight them, put the spotlight on them. Even if it's somebody who, they listened, they read this book that was really, really great, or they're dressed right. They're not showing up to the organization in a wife beater and sweatpants and not wearing deodorant. And all of a sudden now they're dressed and looking good, business casual or whatever. Highlight that person. You're going to be able to remove that confusion, get that unified belief, and then also prevent any of that negativity, because people are only going to be hearing the good things. So if you start right now with all of this, you're not going to allow it anymore. It'll eventually stop. Now, the good and bad of this is some people might leave because they might feel like, they're no longer part of the clique that they can gossip or be negative anymore. And that might be scary. But if you're in this for the long haul, which I believe that you are, if you're in the inner circle, you're in this. I mean, you are in this to make it to be big. And so getting rid of this negativity and stopping the gossip, if somebody comes to you with it and it stops with you, be like, okay, I'm glad you came to me. Let's keep this between you and me, and I'll see what I can do to take care of this. Because that's what I did in my organization. And it wasn't perfect. I still had people gossiping, and we still messed up because we had moments of weakness where we were frustrated with XYZ person and we said something we shouldn't have and we were stupid. And all of a sudden, that created negativity. And it took the focus off building our dreams, building our passions, and building our business, and it put it on some negative things. And people don't grow when they're focused on the negative things. So, encouraging your people to come to you and telling them that that's what you do. I go to my sponsor. I go to I go to XYZ person, because they're my fastest growing sponsor. And whenever I'm frustrated or I'm dealing with something that's negative, I go to them. And you teach that to people. Guess what happens? Monkey see, monkey do. They tend to do the exact same thing as you. That wasn't meant to rhyme. I'm sorry. So one more note on this. It can be excruciatingly tempting. Believe me. It's so hard when you have something that's super juicy. Oh man, it's so super juicy. And you're just like, man, it would make for a good story. And then what's really bad is when you think, oh man, it make for a good teaching story to rat this person out to other people on my team. That way they don't do it. I've heard people give that excuse before. Well, I'm gonna tell them about this person and what they did so that they don't do the same thing. That's how I rationalize why I should do it, because I'm actually helping that person. And it's crazy what your mind can come up with. But knowing, here's a good rule of thumb for all of this. If you wouldn't say it with that person present, don't say it at all. Let that sink in. If you are unwilling to say something about that person to another person, and if they were there, and if you would be like, oh, I shouldn't say that, then don't say it. Don't say it. So it's tempting, but I'll tell you what, man, it can be one of the biggest killers in an organization by bringing negativity in there. You can kill a whole leg really fast, or a whole organization really fast, by allowing that negativity to be in there. So being more conscious of this and being more intentional. When somebody comes to you with gossip, your initial reaction might be okay, and you might be in a social situation and you might want to say something, and all of a sudden you might, oh wait, you know what, that can be construed as negative. I shouldn't. It can be really helpful. Plus, who wants to live that way? Who wants to live talking about other people? You know, even if you're frustrated, it doesn't help. It doesn't help you. Okay, so the next one is all alone. Last one. This one's easy. Just don't leave people alone. Don't plug them into don't leave them hanging out to dry. I get that joke there with the laundry sitting there. Okay, moving on. Don't leave them hanging out to dry. Don't just plug them in and then just forget it and be like, all right, they're good. So what's great about this is actually I'll get to that in the next slide. There's no replacement for one-on-one FaceTime with you. You know what I mean? If you feel like somebody needs it and they're hardworking, pick and choose your time with people. Don't just jump out there and try to do 1,000 one-on-ones a week, because you're going to just run yourself ragged and get into management mode, as I like to call it, and end up just managing people on your team instead of building a team. So if you can pick the people who are working hard but maybe struggling, you kind of feel like, oh, they haven't called me back in a while. They were doing really well, and I've noticed they're slowing down. Their numbers aren't as good or whatever. I should just go hang out with them, because I can see a lot of potential with this person. I can see a lot of positivity in them. I can see a lot of excitement. I see a lot of potential. I should just go take them out to coffee or go have lunch with them and something like that. And intentionally don't talk about the business. Just get to know them. Just, have some fun with them, and, make sure they're showing up to the fun parties or a call party, or just hang out with them if you can. Then that can be an organization saver. It can save an entire leg for you. If some people below you that are really excited and are really passionate, but that maybe are hitting a little bit of a wall, but they're too scared to say something because they're maybe embarrassed about their numbers aren't as good as they want them to be, or they're not where they want to be in the business or whatever. Getting in front of them and just connecting with them, that can be a huge, huge, huge benefit. So like I was going to say, there are tons of ways to do this, even with people you don't like. So if you're anything like Ashley and I, you love people, you love them for the human being that they are. But some people, they're just not your type of people. And so you want to be able to get them plugged in with some of the webinars that you're doing, get them plugged into some of the conference calls that you're doing. But don't leave them alone. Don't, involve them in the text chains or tag them in the Facebook posts, and bare minimum do things like that to make them realize somebody's thinking about them. Somebody cares about my business. Somebody cares about me as a human being. There are tons of ways to do this. Social settings are great. If you're inviting a bunch of people over to your house for a fun party on the weekends or whatever, to watch football or barbecue outside or 4th of July weekend or whatever, inviting people over for stuff like that. And then having them around other upbeat, uplifting people where you don't have to have the one-on-one interaction, then that's a great way to quote unquote deal with people you don't like. Because here's the deal. You don't want anybody to be unsuccessful. You don't want anybody to fail, especially if they're in your organization. But you don't necessarily want to be around the energy suckers, the people that are not uplifting you. So there are a ton of ways to do this. Brainstorm some of them. I think some of the social situations are great. Virtually is great. Conference calls, just making sure that they know somebody's thinking about them and somebody wants their success as well. And maybe what's funny about this is when you start to see some successes with them and you start to see them growing a little bit as a person, then all of a sudden you start to like them a little bit more. We've had people in our organization that we've brought in and we're like, don't want to be friends with them. And they're some of our best friends now, some of our closest friends. So it's funny how this can change. So don't just exclude people right off the bat. You'd be really surprised. All right. Summarize real fast for you. Be all in. So what does that mean? That's the kind of to wrap all this up. So when I say all in, I don't mean work 80 hours a week. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying here, you got to be all in. You got to be, pounding the pavement and have 3 cell phones. So that when the first one dies, you can go to the next one. Then when that one dies, you can go to the next one because you're going through the phone battery so fast. None of that stuff. What I mean by all in is no more negativity in your organization. Be where the buck stops with the negativity. Be that example to people. So if some people are they're unwilling or scared to be that quote unquote leader, we actually have a whole nother training that I'm putting together right now on the 4 different personality, the way the 4 different personality types can be effective leaders. And it's, I wanted to throw it into this one, but it would be way too long, way too comprehensive. So there's a whole nother training that we're going to have about that. So don't worry about that. Right now, this is a good starting point, but know that being all in means that you're not going to leave your people alone. And it's super easy nowadays with cell phones and the internet, just keeping people plugged into at least something where they can feel like they're a part of something bigger. And being where the buck stops with the negativity can be absolutely huge, because if you're all in on not leaving them alone, not being the spread of negativity, be where the negativity stops, encouraging them to come to you with the negativity and then letting it stop there and die there. And then also, being the example to where you can remove all that confusion, be that leader. What's beautiful about this is you just start being more conscious of this, being more, I misspelled C, being more intentional with this, and you live by these examples, you're going to see absolutely dramatic results. Why? Because when you begin to live by these standards consciously, you start to seek out other people that will do the same, and only attract the people who are willing to be all in like you. So the reason why I wanted this one up here, I really wanted you to read this one. I'm going to say it again. When you begin to live by these standards consciously and intentionally, you start to seek out others that will do the same. And you'll start to attract only the people who are willing to be all in like you. So that's what I mean by all in. Living by these standards moving forward. Be all in on these standards. Make that commitment to be intentional and conscious about this. So one thing I also want to let people know is there might be some delayed effect on this, especially if you have a big organization. If negativity and confusion is running deep in your organization already, but you have something that's thriving, you have a great product, you have a great comp plan, you have a great business, that's great. But the long term, you want to start weeding out that negativity and that confusion, getting people unified. And what's great is when we talked about at the beginning of this, I talked about what you'll learn is how to attract more leaders. This is how you do it. People will be inspired by somebody who is bigger than the problem. And that's how you deal with negativity, is realizing that you are bigger than the problem. You are. And ultimately, that's what's going to attract leaders to you. You don't need to be the charismatic person that gets up there and does the perfect conference call, the perfect webinar, the perfect training, that gets up there and does the most inspirational product demonstration and draws circles better than anybody, right? Doesn't mean any of that. It means being a leader is not allowing negativity, not allowing confusion, and not leaving people alone. And ultimately, you're going to attract more leaders on your team, because when you're that type of person, you attract that type of person. So this, by the way, is the real reason why people quit some network marketing. This is why attrition rate is so high, is because they get confused, they get negativity in their life, or they feel left alone. I have done so many one-on-one coaching calls where people, this is the source of their frustration. One of these three is this, or multiple ones are the source of their frustrations. And you talk to them about old companies that they've been in and why they left those. One of these three, it always falls into one of these three. Either that, or if the company goes under, there's not, they didn't quit. It left them, it quit them. But it always falls into one of these three. And so my point with all of that is, if people aren't confused, they aren't left alone, and they don't have to deal with as much negativity, their chances of quitting fall dramatically. And I feel like if I can help you cut down on the amount of people that are leaving, or the attrition rate in your company or in your organization, your income's going to go up, and I'm helping you. So, with that, I'm going to let you guys go. I could jump into this so much more. I'm so excited to jump into so much more training with you, but I hope this helps you. I think this is one of the better philosophies that people have. I think what's great about this training is it's what I call a duh training. It's a training where you go, well, yeah, duh. But when you really dig into it and you read into it a little bit more, you realize that I haven't been intentional. I haven't been conscious of this. I have let myself gossip and be negative. I have let confusion get into my organization because this new training comes in, and I'm even excited about it. I'm excited about trying it. So I encourage other people to try. And all of a sudden my organization is in shambles because we all decided to do something radically weird and different because, guy who's not successful to begin with comes in, or is successful doing it his own way, comes in and tells people to change everything. And it seems exciting, but it doesn't help. So if I can help you become more intentional about and more conscious of the negativity and the confusion in your organization, to where you can start spotting it when it starts to rear its ugly head, that's when you're going to have dramatic improvements in your organization. So with that, I will let you go, and I will see you on the next training.